I'm Lisi Keeker, a longtime studio owner turned founder here at Studio Grow. Just a few years ago, I was building my studios the hard way. So I didn't have the team, the budget, or most importantly, the time. Now, if you speed up to today, I sold my wildly profitable studios in the mid 7 figures while serving my community in ways I could have only dreamed. Now I work with thousands of boutique fitness studio owners in over 40 countries, and I am so blessed to share some of the best tested strategies for our industry every single week. I created this podcast so you'd always have clear, actionable processes, tried and tested advice, and just some good old-fashioned inspiration. So you can take steps to grow your studio and turn it into a powerhouse empire just like I did. If you're a studio owner who's ready to impact your community and see major growth in the process, or you're prepping to become one, then you're in the right place. So let's kick this off, shall we?
Well, guys, if we haven't met before, I am Lisi Keeker. I'm the founder and CEO here at Studio Grow. Welcome to the business of boutique fitness. Now, if you have not joined us in the last few episodes, you may notice something new, especially if you're on YouTube or a video streaming platform. Yes, we have hauled our whole team to Charlottesville, and we are now filming these so that face-to-face, we get to hang out in a very different way. If you're joining us on Spotify or Apple or one of the traditional podcast services, don't worry, it's still one of our glorious, traditional, jam-packed episodes. Today, it's all about what the top studios are doing. It's a question I get all the time. What are the highest performing studios in the world actually doing? And the answer is quite a few things. But first, before we even get started, let's just go ahead and define what actually makes a great studio today, what makes a top studio. Normally, I hear from people and they go, oh my gosh, it's somebody that's a 7-figure studio. It's a multi-7-figure studio. They've got an X amount of PR publicity. I've seen them on the covers of magazines. They've got celebrity clients. Whatever it is that you define with, these in my mind are the vanity metrics of studio success. They look really bright and shiny. They actually don't matter very much. In fact, many of the studios that I've seen make the covers of core magazines and wind up being touted as like the next great thing. 5 years later, they're out of business because it turned out they were never actually profitable. When I'm looking for a top studio, I'm looking for a couple of key things. So first of all, I'm looking for presently, you are in fact profitable. In other words, you're running a 30% or higher profit percentage. You've got economic growth ahead of you. If you're not profitable, guys, it's really hard to put you in a top studio category. And if you're not sustainably profitable, which we consider a 30% or higher EBITDA, it's really hard to get you there either. I mean, this is something where we want to make sure first and foremost, you've got cash flow, you are running a successful business. Second, we can see future financial gain. In other words, if I look ahead and I forecast where you're going, I can see you're on a trajectory to grow and scale. Could be in a single studio, could be multiple studios, could be a franchise, could be adding ancillary services. Whatever it is, you have got a future that is going to be successful. Third thing, you got some freedom when it comes to your time. You are no longer like literally chained to your studio. Now, I think if you're a studio owner, you know exactly what I'm talking about on this one. We've all been there and done that. We are just struggling under the weights of our studios. The fact of the matter is, if you are still in that place where the only way your studio is going to grow, the only way your studio is going to run is if you are there, we got some work to be done. And it's hard to say that's in a top studio perspective. Fourth thing, studio has become a creative outlet for us. I think from 99% of teachers who are like me on this one, your studio is a place for you to show up and build and choreograph and design an incredible experience, an incredible amount of change in your clients. They were pure creative outlets for you. And finally, this is a chance where you really get to hone your leadership skills, your business acumen. This is something where you're being tested, you're driven ahead, you're growing in your skill set as a leader in boutique fitness. Because quite frankly, if you're sitting in the top studio category, you are in fact a leader. Now, if you've got these things, it doesn't matter whether your EBITDA is at $100,000 a year, your EBITDA is at $50 million a year. In my mind, you fall into the top studio category. You've built a valuable asset. You have provided personal freedom for yourself. You've got the growth that we're all looking for on this. Now, With all this in mind, we're going to be going deep into growth mindset. I think most of the top studios we work with, whether they're looking to scale their one and only highly successful studio as large as they can, or whether they're looking to grow as rapidly as possible, whether we're talking franchising, corporate growth, it's clear that they are looking to grow in one way, shape, or form. So let's start with going ahead the personal matters. Like, what makes you as an incredible a studio owner? What makes you the type of studio owner that's going to lead one of the best studios in the world? First thing is, I think you got to own your priorities. It's without a doubt. Mark Zuckerberg, I think, said it best. He said he asks himself a single question every morning: am I doing the most important things I could be doing? The fact of the matter, as a business owner, you are not given a real hardcore playbook. You're going to have to decide each and every day if what you're going to work on that day is really going to drive your business ahead, grow it towards where it needs to be grown, protect the space and boundaries you've built in. You make that in every single decision every single day. And without a doubt, the top studio owners, in my mind, they own that completely. They also own the good and the bad. The fact is that I can tell you, as a studio owner, I made lots of amazing decisions, and I made lots of just absolutely terrible ones too. There's no doubt in my mind that you are going to make decisions that are like, yes, this was awesome. You're going to make decisions that you are like, I totally regret this. There are going to be days that you show up as an incredible leader, and there are going to be moments that, quite frankly, you don't. That's part of being a human in business, and all of us who function as business leaders, business owners, not just studio owners on this one, we're all grappling with the exact same thing of what this really means to show up each and every day. Finally, I think that there's a real conviction for excellence, and it's something that doesn't disappear. Let me explain for just a second. I find, because I work with many studio owners and I talk to so many business owners all around the world, that people oftentimes say to me, oh, I want the best of the best of the best. But then I watch them slowly shave the corners a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more until suddenly they have this cookie cutter approach and they're wondering what really changed. I think that the business owners that I see that are succeeding in excellence on this one, they are always seeking out the greatest possible experience. They're not cutting corners when it comes to team. They're not cutting corners when it comes to what a client experience is going to be. They are making sure that this is the best of the best, the best. They're also all in relatively high growth mode. Okay, so interesting things on growth these days. We've been working in our bespoke division with a number of brands that are like, hey, we want to rapidly scale anywhere between 3 and 10 initial locations, but we're ready to scale. We want to be in the next 5 years up to 30, 50, 70 locations corporately owned. It's absolutely audacious goals. I'm totally here for them. So what are we seeing? How are they getting to those goals? The first is recognizing they're bringing an M&A model to this. So mergers and acquisitions. They're looking around and realizing that in truth, there are a lot of failing studios all around the world these days. Depending on what numbers and what exact research you're looking at these days, anywhere between, let's just say 10 and 17% of studios are sustainably profitable right now. So yes, that means somewhere between 83 and 90% of studios are not. That means you have got massive opportunities in your communities and in markets that you're looking for high growth in to really have a chance to go in and take over some of the best spaces you could imagine and put your thriving studio group in them. For many of our top performing studios, rather than just looking and saying, I'm going to open 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 brand new studios, they're instead coming to this and they're saying, wait a second, I'm going to open in the next year, I'm going to take 5 studios. 3 of them are going to be new studios and 2 of them are going to be acquisitions. Or in the case of some of our clients, there's going to be 5 acquisitions because we know that we can open them, buy a new studio for a fraction of the cost of opening them. So what are they looking for? First thing, without a doubt, it's location, location, location. Whoever came up with that term, God bless them. There is so much truth to that in a brick and mortar business. The fact of the matter is there are only so many great locations in every single market. We're going to open somewhere between 92 and 145 new studios in our Start Your Studio Profitably program in the next 18 months. And we're constantly on the lookout to what makes an extraordinary location. And even in markets that you'd be like, hey, there's got to be 100 of them. In reality, no. It's more like 5, 6, 8, 10 that are extraordinary locations. So the first thing is, if we're looking for great locations, two kinds of great locations. We're looking for locations for your ideal market growth plan. So if I'm going to be expanding to multiple locations, let's just say I'm in Washington, D.C., closest major market to me here in Charlottesville, Virginia. Let's assume I've got locations in Northern Virginia to start with. So Alexandria, McLean, Tyson's Corner, maybe out in Loudoun County, I'm starting to expand to that. Where's my big gaping holes? Maybe it's Springfield, maybe it's Arlington, maybe I want to cross the river and I want to go into DC and I want to be leaping into Georgetown or Northwest DC. I'm looking for all of these different markets. And so the first is that, hey, if I'm going to be looking for acquisitions, they're key acquisitions for my growth plan. I maybe don't need something that's 2 blocks down from an existing studio. It's acquisitions that are going to flesh out really me dominating a local market. The second is within that individual market growth plan, it's an ideal location. It's literally the cross streets that you're looking for. It's the dream plaza that you want to be in. So if I'm in Arlington, like it's not just Arlington, oh my gosh, is very big, but it is cross street of X and Y. It is my Whole Foods anchored plaza. It's a plaza that's anchored by Wegmans. It's anchored by the best boutique in town. That's what I'm really hunting for to ensure we're there. Second thing I'm looking for is the possibility of renegotiating debt or lease structure. In other words, when I'm going to go in, when I am buying a studio on this one, and I've done this myself, very first thing that I go to is the landlord and say, how can I ensure that I'm getting the best possible deal moving forward? In other words, if I'm going to sign for another 10 years, even though we're in the middle of a lease, if I'm going to sign for another 7 years, if I'm taking over this lease, how can we structure this in a way that it's most advantageous for me? When we did this the first time that I acquired a studio, radical difference. We wound up dropping our lease by almost $5,000 a month, which I can tell you was massive, made you enormous opportunities since we freed up cash flow to grow significantly. Third thing I'm looking for, a decent member base. I want to make sure that I don't need a great member base, but I want a member base to be able to roll with on this. Ideally, it's reasonably similar modalities. So if, for example, I want to open a boxing studio, I may not want to buy a yoga studio. If on the other hand, I want to open a Pilates studio, a yoga studio, it falls in that mind-body realm. I'm in great shape to make that happen. And finally, they're part of the way to profitable. Ideally, most of the way to profitable. I think my magic numbers, they're somewhere between 75 and 90% of the way to profitability. So I'm okay to even take a net loss because I'm going to try to negotiate that lease and make up for as much of that as possible. Because if they're not profitable yet, that lease is probably eating up a significant amount of my overall revenue and expense to revenue ratio. That's what I'm going to be hunting for. Second thing in growth that they're going to be looking for, the pace of openings. All right. If I'm growing, how fast am I going to grow? Now, there's no real magic pace to this. I think, in fact, the only right pace is the right pace for you. So, for example, for me, it was a 1 studio a year pace. I was very content. I was very happy with that. I had friends who were doing the 3, 4, 5, 6 studios a year. Also equally great pace. If you're going to go at that pace, let's talk about the team that you're going to need to get there in just a hot minute. But it's the right pace for you at this season of your life. Cannot stress this enough. I want you to leave this business and feel like not only did you give it your all, but you didn't give away your life in the process. Like it's got to be both of those things. So let's assume you're going to be one of the more rapid growth facilities. So you're opening somewhere between 2 and 4 per year. But let's just say you know that if you put the right team in place, you can scale this to 5 to 6 per year without it damaging your life, your time freedom that we just talked about that makes you a successful studio owner. Well, there's probably going to be a couple of positions, 3 in particular, if I'm being honest, that you want to add. The first is a construction or real estate manager. We're oftentimes adding this whenever we're going to go into the first year that we're going to open at least 3 facilities. Typically speaking, if we're talking boutique fitness facilities that are less than 5,000 square feet or 500 square meters, that person is going to be able to handle between 3 and 6 per year at a time. So yeah, if I'm going to go on ahead and go over 6, guess what? I need a second construction or real estate manager that's going to be in charge of seeking out my real estate, negotiating my leases, ensuring that I have got exceptional construction, build out, fit out deals that are going forward. They're going to be matching the pace and ensuring that when we're extending out over the next 18 months, I can see my path to opening along that market plan that I have built on this. Third thing for growth that without a doubt people are pulling in on this is an internal teacher training and teacher growth. Now, in this day and age, you cannot grow something great without a great experience. I got to tell you, it really is remarkable to me how poor the experiences are getting in boutique fitness. As a team, we go to, I don't know, let's just say between 300 and 500 studios a year and pop into a class. We are a team of 67. That doesn't actually mean it's a lot per person, but I would argue we have a few team members that do a good job of hitting an awful lot of individual studios. And collectively, one of the conversations that we've had is even with historically great brands, quality is on the decline. Now, the fact of the matter is, my expectation is that you personally, since you're looking for something great, you're going to want to put into something in place that is going to ensure your team is extraordinarily well trained. When we look at this, there's really three key components I'm thinking about. The first is a bridge training. So if I've got somebody who's coming to me, they are already trained, and hopefully that's where I'm coming in. Let's just say that they're coming into a cycling studio, so they've already got some type of cycling certification. I'm going to be putting them through a 12 to 16 hour training that's going to teach them how we teach cycling, how we offer a small group training session, how we offer a group reformer session. I think this is critical because we've gotten to an assumption that if somebody has a certification, that is enough. It's not enough for your studio. Your studio is different. It's distinct. It has its own special sauce. And we want to make sure that you're sharing it and you're enabling that come through on this. That bridge training is what carries you there. The second training is going to be a full-scale teacher training. Now, I think every studio should have a bridge training from the moment you open. By the time you've gotten to somewhere between the 6th and the 10th location, you really got to have a full-scale teacher training program to back that up. You're not going to assume that you're going to have, 50,000 Pilates instructors or yoga instructors or personal trainers or specialists for your tread hit studio. We need to make sure that you are developing this, you are guiding this, and you are controlling this from the moment someone begins their certification to the moment that they walk into their studio. So at that point, you are adding that in, and you're going to begin a marketing path to really drive as many people through this as possible. Some people, by the way, they're looking to keep this to teachers only. This is restricted. They are never going to be allowed to teach it outside of your studios. Other people, this becomes a massive revenue source, a la a Zumba or Nia or any of the other ones like this that have, I don't know, tens of thousands, millions probably at this point, of teachers around the globe on this. Finally, the third piece of this, your ongoing training, mentor, coaching. Now, we're going to talk more about this when we get into growth plans down below, but I got to tell you, y'all, this is a critical piece. You can't just take someone and, I don't know, I guess let's use the example. I've got a first grader. He has learned how to read. He's on the Teal books. This is a big deal. I mean, we have gone all year to get to Teal books. Pink and purple are next. And once we're through with purple, we are at chapter books. And when I say we, I mean we, because this is like a nightly, every night between 7 and 8 p.m., we are diving in. If I don't continue next year working with Kid on his reading, it's going to stagnate. He's going to stop at pink or purple. Maybe he'll stop at chapter books that are great for a second grader. Like, we know this theoretically if we're looking at a child and their growth pattern and how they're going to read. Your instructors are no different. Your job is to take them from good to extraordinary instructors and to every stage in between. That's going to come through that mentorship, that growth, that ability to make sure that you are mentoring and loving them into the very best versions of themselves on there. And by the way, yes, some of those teachers are going to leave. I want to be crystal clear on that. That's the biggest thing when I tell people, like, what if they leave? And I'm like, they are going to leave. At some point, if you have done this right, you will have a body of instructors that you have grown that will be extraordinary, that will be all these lovely little tentacles out into the community that will carry back to you. And trust me, that is never a bad thing on this one. All right, so if we know the personal characteristics, we know the growth characteristics for a great studio. Now let's get into the new studio opening characteristics, because y'all, you're going to be opening some new studios. 2 types of studios that we're looking at. The first are the acquired studios. We're calling this studio re-grand openings. Okay. In other words, they've already been a studio before. Now they're going to be flipped to your studio group. Second is a true studio grand opening. Now, studios that are performing at their absolute peak, they know the importance of both of these and they have distinct plans for each of these. Let's start with studio grand openings on this. Goal number one is that they are going to know exactly what it takes to open a new studio and do it well. Because guys, cash flow is king when you are trying to grow a small business to a mid-sized business. Great example of this. We have an amazing client that I have absolutely loved working with in Southern California. They came to us with somewhere around 6 studios. They're going to end this year with about 18 studios, I think, in that general vicinity on that. What we spent a lot of our time on was making sure that we knew the magic number we could open a studio for. It's how we could ensure that we could get the right financing. It's how we could ensure that we had the right cash flow. It's how we could ensure that they knew exactly how many studios were feasible for them to open based on their profit margins in the next year. By the way, their magic number happened to be $125,000. That meant that we had to get the right tenant improvement money, that we had to get the right lease, that we had to have some great relationships with their equipment vendors. And in fact, we got very creative in working with them for delaying payouts over the first year. We had to get really thoughtful on how we were going to deliver financing. In this case, they didn't necessarily want to take investor money yet. They wanted to get to a point where they had a multiplier on their EBITDA that was going to yield up a much higher valuation. And so we've been working with them. So if you're in the United States, that may be getting creative with SBA loans, where secondary and tertiary loans, you're going to have a 2% down payment because you can take 98% of your loan as working capital for those secondary and tertiary loans. In other countries, I got a whole lot of other variations of this depending on the country you're in. All of this ensures that you can literally forecast out and say exactly what your pace of growth, what's the max pace of growth from a realistic financial position is. By the way, it doesn't mean you have to open as many as that pace of growth is. It means that's what's possible. And you know you're not going to exceed that. Second goal you're going to have is you're going to open your doors profitably. This is something we've gotten really, really, really good at. We have a dedicated team of 15. This is all they do in our Start Your Studio Profitably program. And yes, I want to be real clear on this one. You can, in fact, open a studio profitably. That means certainly by day one, if not the end of grand opening, which is 90 days after you open, you can in fact make sure that all of your operational expenses and all your practitioner expenses are paid for by the revenue that is coming in every single month. This is a type of business that if it's taking you a year and a half to be profitable, I would say you're doing something wrong. We want to make sure that presale is phenomenal. Now, how do you open profitably? First, and I think the biggest thing, is to know that every great studio sells all the time. Like, sales is a key part of what they do. They're not shy about it. They recognize that if they're going to have strong revenue and strong profitability, they're going to have a sales team and sales plan and blueprint that they're going to be executing on all the time. They are not going to hide that. They are going to make that an absolute priority inside of their studio. They're also going to look for, what are the core things that can go wrong, and they're going to avoid them at all costs. Okay, so let me just tell you a few things that are missing oftentimes in high quality pre-sales. It means you're not going to open profitably if you don't have that. 60 days of waitlist driven marketing. Okay, waitlist driven means that I am trying to build a massive amount of people in my waitlist. I pulled up these numbers, got plenty that's sitting on my iPad in front of me right now. So waitlist, if I am in a small market is under 20,000 people, I'm ideally looking for 500 to 1,200 leads on there. Mid-sized market on this one, that means that I'm sitting somewhere between, let's say, 25 and 75,000 people. I'm looking for 750 to 1,500 leads. Large market on this one, 1,000 to 3,000 leads on my waitlist. That waitlist is there for me to bring in a set of nurturing processes that go well beyond automations. Guys, I was going back and forth over the numbers in regards to follow-up in our industry, and they're pretty dismal, especially when you consider that something like 42% of all studios never follow up at all. Okay, I show up, I'm a lead, I'm so excited. I never hear a single thing back. It's like I was worthless, me showing up. And I don't think we ever want someone to feel that way who's coming into our studios. So this is about the types of automations where we gently and thoughtfully just reach out and say, we are here to support you. We are here to help on this journey. We are here to love on you and build a healthier place around us. Next, as I touched on before, a sales team, by the way, magic conversion number, 40% that we're looking them to convert on for long-term memberships. Long-term memberships are the key in pre-sales. I will go on ahead and say that what is oftentimes missing in a pre-sale is selling memberships of 6 months or longer. I mean, if you're scared of a 12-month membership, move to a 6-month membership, but please don't sell month-to-month memberships. I can tell you, we started studying this last year. We had a number of big brands that had come to us and they were saying, hey, we're totally month-to-month membership driven on our pre-sale. And when we would look at the 3-month mark, we would realize the attrition rate was consistently north of 50% and as high of 80%. So they had just spent all of this money, in some cases $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, having this massive pre-sale, these huge numbers that they could be like, we're here. And 90 days later, 50 to 75% of their people were gone. It's just not even worth it. Like the numbers did not even make sense on this. It was vanity metrics at its finest. Last piece of this that they recognize that I think is often missing is a grand opening process. Those first 90 days are magic. Whatever you do in your pre-sale, theoretically, you should do in your first 90 days again. You can do that, by the way. It's something that's very realistic. I mean, if you blow your pre-sale out of the water and you essentially sell out. We're having that problem right now. We've actually done that like 3 times in the last 60 days. All right, so for those people, you're not going to do this. You're already sold out. Congratulations. You are opening with a wait list. We're super, super, super thrilled for you on that one. But for everybody else, if you're going to sell 150 members in pre-sale, you should sell 150 members in the first 90 days. That means you're going to need an extraordinary grand opening process, and you're going to have to hold to that as much as possible. Now, if that's how we get to a studio grand opening, let's consider how the best studios are doing a rebranded grand opening, okay? So just to be totally clear on this, this is a more complex version of a pre-sale. And I would say most of the times, this is, for lack of a better term, half-assed. Like we are looking at this and we look at this and we're like, gosh, we can get this open as quickly as possible. That's really the priority. And people lose the most precious time. The roughly 12 weeks before you open and the 12 weeks after you open, it is absolutely critical here. So if I'm going to do a great rebranded grand opening, the first thing is I'm going to have the existing owner that I'm buying from completely bought in, because the role that they have on this is absolutely critical. They're going to be playing a role of introducing my new studio, of introducing me, of ensuring that I'm in touch with the right clients, the right teachers, of helping bridge the gap on those relationships. That's what they're here for. And I'm going to make sure that I am very thoughtfully utilizing them in that role. I'm going to run a full rebranded pre-sale. That means I'm going to have a massive waitlist campaign. I'm going to be doing a full pre-sale before I take over the studio. Studio can still be running during this time and soft opening for where it is. I'm going to do a massive grand opening. I'm going to have some incredibly special opportunities for existing members to transition onto, and I'm going to treat them like the VIPs that they are, because my gosh, I want to show them that this is the best experience that they're going to have. When it comes to keeping members on board, this is all about how you're showing up. I mean, when we were doing this, and the first time we did this, I think my husband thought I'd lost my ever-loving mind, and maybe I did. I had roughly 400 current or recently former members that I had a list on. And by recent, they'd been members within roughly the last year. And I made a decision to call every single person. I wound up literally getting a hold of about 3/4 of them. I will say, when you call Minnesotans with a Louisiana area code, there is a curiosity that will cause them to pick up that I'm very grateful for. And I really just had, 3 questions. What did you love about the studio? I want to hear, like, what really worked for you? What is something you would have changed about the studio? What would have made it better for you? And interestingly enough, you're probably going to hear somewhere between 2 and 3 things that 90% of people are going to say. And these are the easiest things you can change from a culture or from an equipment or from a renovation, that it's going to make people say, wow, they listen. And the third, looking ahead, as you look in this and you think of the changes and what we can bring, what would be most important from an attitude and culture perspective that we show up with? And I learned a lot of things from those. That spreadsheet allowed us to take a $58,000 purchase. That's what we bought it for. Probably was still too much, but you know what? I was okay with it, and we sold it. We sold it as a seven-figure plus sale. Less than 3 years later. Yeah, somewhere right around there. And so, when you see this and you look at this, you have this massive, massive, massive opportunity here. Want to make sure you hold on to it, that you own that completely. You only get one chance to rebrand this and to do this well. By the way, this could be an absolute party for those first 90 days that you're open. It really should be. I think that was my favorite thing was building out all these cool experiences and what we could do to make it feel like there was always a celebration going on. All right, so we've hit personal, we've hit growth, we've hit new studios. Now let's talk about that studio marketing on this one. Probably the biggest differentiator we see in top performing studios is that they've really professionalized their marketing. They've taken it seriously. They have a plan. They have a calendar of promotions for the next year in mind. They know exactly what products they're going to be introducing. They know exactly when they're going to be introducing them. They know what promotions are going to come in key times of year for individual markets. They have an idea if they're going to be shifting introductory packages or doing tests on those this year. They really know what they're working through on this. They're not flying by the seat of their pants because, guys, that is not a marketing plan. That's my idea of marketing hell. Actually, I think this would be a definite means by which I would not sleep again for quite some time if that's how I was running my marketing. So what does comprehensive growth marketing that's great in a studio look like today? All right, so 5 components of it. So first, we've got the social component. Guys, people are going to go to your social media before they're going to go to your website. Your social media needs to be a clear invitation to walk into your studio every single day. You do not need to be super salesy. You do not need to have something where you're constantly pushing people to come in, or you're doing things that are maybe awkward or uncomfortable. It's going to show you you and your studio at its best, sometimes at its funniest, sometimes at its craziest, sometimes even at its nuttiest and worst. I mean, that's what social media does. But the key is it lets people into what your studio is. Second are going to be your automations. For most studios in North America, that's going to be email and SMS, so text messages. For most other studios around the world, that's going to be email and WhatsApp automation messages. And yes, especially even if you're in Europe and thinking about some of the WhatsApp rules there's some great means by which we can do this as one-off messages. And so really core things. Third component is paid advertising. For most of us, that's going to be Google and Meta. Okay, that's going to be what we're really dialing into. However, we're continuing to test TikTok. I have some hopes that in the next year or two, we're going to see TikTok really leap up. And in some markets, especially when we're looking at Gen Z, we've seen some compelling evidence that it's worth the ad at times that is going to get us over the hump there. Fourth piece of this is website and SEO. Guys, we got a lot of changes these days when it comes to SEO. Now we've got voice recognition optimization. If you're talking into your phone, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Siri optimizes and shows your searches based on voice recognition optimization. The fact of the matter is we got an awful lot of people who have stopped using Google and are now using ChatGPT for just about everything. It's telling us that we've got to look at things a little bit differently. How we lay this out is in fact different. And finally, the fifth piece of this is my analog piece. Okay, analog, the 50%. It's the 50% of your marketing is going to be sitting in something that takes place outside of what you do in your studio walls. It's when you walk out of your doors. So analog marketing, some of us might call it old school marketing. Signage. Okay, that can be in-studio signage, that could be exterior signage, that might be signage that you've bought all around town, in-studio announcements, referrals, pop-ups and collaborations with key businesses in the area, PR. All of these are going to be the types of things that get you outside of your walls. And quite frankly, it's what's brilliant about being a brick and mortar studio owner. You don't just have to rely on digital. You're not fighting it out like, Amazon and a million other places that are digital only. importantly, you, my friend, have the ability to walk out of your front door right now, to haul a couple of mats to a boutique that's 6 blocks down the road, set up a class, get 25 leads, and sell, 10, 12, 15 introductory packages. You can do that every single week. In fact, there's a compelling case that we've seen that you can limit your digital spend as much as you really want to if you're going to build out a thoughtful, comprehensive, analog strategy. Now, when I'm looking across all 5 of these, I think the critical thing is to recognize this is an omnichannel strategy. Now, popular word, what does it really mean for you as a studio? It means that what I'm seeing on social media is going to be reflected on what I see in my paid ads. It's going to be reflected on what I see in regards to my signage. It's going to be reflected on what I see on my website messaging, on what I see on my email that comes in after somebody becomes a lead. This is an omni-channel strategy where I can tell the same messaging is delivered to me over and over and over again. Critical because we know it takes roughly 7 to 12 times receiving the same message before someone is ready to walk through your studio's doors. Now, this means that I can't have these all in a silo. I can't have someone over here doing social who's not even considering what I'm going to say on my website, or what emails are going to be going out, or what automations are popping out, or what my paid ad are going to say. These have to be collectively reviewed. By the way, guys, it's actually much easier that way. For so oftentimes when we're trying to do this and we've got 5 different things going, it's a nightmare. You've got 5 different marketing strategies you're running, and you shouldn't be doing that. You should be running one across all of these platforms. Your life will just be made so much easier. And it's the one thing I will say, simplicity is here. Content is king. Guys, there's just no doubt about it. Good content, it wins these days. Not just a little bit, but a lot. I had my element in there, and I think I just swallowed straight salt water. I'm going to just say that was an unexpected surprise for me. Content can be everything from you telling people, educating them on their knees, their hips, their back, their hormones, God knows anything else on this, to absolutely poking fun of what it means to be a Pilates teacher today, what it means to be someone who's absolutely obsessed with running on a treadmill, what it means for any of those things. And I think that's such an important to know. Content is something people want to consume. Genuinely content, it's not the most polished content that wins. I see people who make perfect content. I cannot even imagine the amount of time they spend on it. Actually doesn't perform as well as the low-key, one of my clients calls it borderline crappy content. It's truth. People want to see you a little bit raw. They want to see it fun. They want to see plenty of it. That means perfect is in some ways going to need to go out the door. 6th piece of this, actually 5th on this one, because we've gone through personal, we've gone through growth, we've gone through new studio, we've gone through marketing. Now we're at team growth plans and benefits. Team's at the top of this. You are as a people as a service kind of business. You heard about SaaS. I call this PaaS. Is that a real term? I'm not actually sure, but we're running with it. The studio instructors you have, the human beings sitting behind your front desk, the human beings who are going to be your sales managers. Guys, this is key, and making sure that you have the best of the best possible and a steady stream of recruits. That's the only way you are ever going to be able to grow and grow successfully. So let's start out with the recruitment plan. I'm a huge fan of recruiting. I think years ago started realizing that I no longer needed a hiring process. I needed a selection process. I'd like to thank my sweet friend John for that. I showed up at his door one day, probably, 2012, 2013, very frustrated with some hiring things. And he was very well invested with a company that helped select people in the special operations community. And he said, you're so focused on hiring, and that is such a mistake. Get to true selection and recruiting, and you are in a very different ball game. And we did. Now, first thing to recognize on recruiting and selection is marketing is a key piece of this. When you're marketing, you are marketing to 2 different types of people. You're marketing to your clients and you're marketing to your future team members. Make sure you've got marketing that does both of those things. Be very selective in what you put out in regards to what it means to be a team member, what it means to be an instructor, what it means to be part of your team in terms of a growth plan, what it's like to work behind the front desk. Don't just show the glory jobs. Show the jobs that have the high turnover and the types of things that you know you're going to need over and over and over again. Yes, front desk team members, I'm totally looking at you. This is what we're really hunting for Once you get the marketing right, have a deck that shows somebody why they really want to be a part of it. Treat them like they would if they were in a, let's just go ahead and say any other company out there. Show them their benefits. Show them what a growth plan actually looks like. Show them what they are going to expect to experience. Show them how you do things differently. Explain what kind of teacher training program and the ongoing mentoring and what that's going to be. Tell somebody at the front desk how they're going to grow as an individual over a year with you. Let them know why this is the type of job that builds them as a human being. That's what great recruiting does. That's what carries you down there all the time. By the way I look at this really simple. Your compensation is very simple math. How you present your compensation, by the way, is critical because you're going to have a lot of people that you're competing against that are going to give an hourly rate. And hopefully, if you've got a really strong growth plan, you have the ability to offer someone some type of salary, even if it's a part-time salary. Those are two very different things. We've moved beyond hourly rate. We're going to have to present this very differently. The benefits are really like the juice that makes somebody like want to come. It's fascinating. But when we started really interviewing and discussing this with instructors all over the world, the number of people that told us like health insurance, even as a 10-hour week instructor, was enough for them to walk away from every other job. You make sure those benefits they're so critical, so many basic to this. Your growth plan though is your retention plan. They go hand in hand. When you build out that growth plan and you say, this is where we are headed, you are literally building out a way to keep every single team member double, triple, quadruple the length of time. Make sure you own that. Make sure you're thoughtful within this. Now, the final piece, sixth aspect of top performing studios is without a doubt every single person's. The one thing that I know that I see is when I say to these great studio owners, what is a successful exit? They can answer me instantaneously. There is no thinking. They have thought about it. They've considered it. They know exactly what they want their exit to be. They know a financial bottom line on this of where they want to be. They know how long they want to stay as part of the studio. They are very clear with what success looks like when it comes to selling their studio. And that number is helping them make every decision today. Your number is your own number. It is not your spouse's number. It is not your father or your mother's number. It is not your kid's number. It is not the number that some random person shouted out on an Instagram ad that it should be. It is your number. You need to own it 100% to say, this is what I am going for. Once you do, you're going to recognize real quickly that all the things we just talked about and a million more, that's what's going to get you there. Flora Whitmore said, the doors we open and close each day decide the lives that we lead. I would say the doors you open and each close each day, the decisions you make decide the studio you're going to sell, what you're going to get for it, how easy that experience will be, how simple the transition will be, the legacy you are going to lead. Please don't deny yourself the ability to see this. Your studio has the ability to be the single most valuable thing you ever build. Also one of the most fun things. And so if you're going to do this, you might as well do it right. So guys, that's it. We're looking at the top 6 things that are working in top performing studios all over the world. Now, if you're listening to the podcast right now, please subscribe, share this with studio owners you know and love. If you are listening on YouTube or another video platform, do the same thing. Please, 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 please. We can't wait to share so much more with you as we are leaping ahead and introduce you to some of the most remarkable team members, some of the most remarkable studio owners and leaders in the world today. These guys, we can't wait to make your studio the very best that it can be. Y'all have a great one.